play it all or nothing. Yeah, need it all in advance. The opposition know we're ready for it. Like a supper we eating, it won't be the last. Grind all the muscle, pull up. Poker right on the grass. We coming in, take over everything, run it up. Nothing holding me back. 3 in the wood. Rush.
Welcome to Takeover, the most underrated sports debate show on YouTube. Cam is not in attendance today. This is East Atlanta Santa. Guys, Deandra, Josh, how's it going?
Oh my gosh. I would have never thought you would have came on here and called yourself East Atlanta Santa, but I'm doing good, you know what I'm saying? I'm in the holiday spirit.
I'm in double the holiday spirit because East Atlanta Santa is here. I was feeling it, but now I'm really feeling it. I'm about to go like hang some wreaths and put up all the decorations and start giving out money and stuff. I don't know.
As you should, and we're going to throw you guys right into the topic today. The Pelicans and Grizzlies, two of the youngest teams, but two of the top teams in the West right now, as the Pelicans are the third seed in the West and the Grizzlies are the second. Going forward into this season and into the postseason, who do you trust more, the Pelicans or the Grizzlies?
You can go ahead if you want to.
All right. Well, quite simply, first of all, I think both of them are fantastic. Let's get that out of the way so that nobody accuses me of Jaw hate, Grizzly hate, Desmond, whatever. All right, they're both fantastic, and I think both teams are going to be factors in the Eastern Conference conversation for years to come. This specific season, I trust the Pelicans more, and the main reason for it is I think the Grizzlies are relying on a few too many unproven and young contributors to really be good at the moment. So obviously Desmond Bane and John Morant at the top. I mean, that's a great top two. Desmond's had a few injury problems. He's only played 12 games, but when he's healthy, he's incredible. And he's one of the best 30th overall picks I've ever seen. But outside of that, relying on Dylan Brooks is a walking, talking. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just you don't know what exactly you're going to get. He's an extreme version. He's almost like J.R. Smith to an extent. Like you don't know if he's going for 35 or if he's going to go 2 for 15. But the biggest issue for me is John Conchar has played 26 minutes a game for them, and then they replace guys like DeAnthony Melton and Kyle Anderson with David Roddy, Jake LaRavia, and Kennedy Chandler. I think relying on rookies, especially rookies like David Roddy, who is still kind of trying to find a position in the NBA, and LaRavia, who's 21, played at Wake Forest. I think relying on that can be a little worrying when it comes to playoff success. It's great in January and February, but when it comes down to the dark, like the grind of the playoffs, I don't know how much I would buy it. The same thing kind of with Zaire Williams. You don't exactly know what you have with him. And Jaren Jackson Jr. I've heard a lot about Zion and how he can't stay healthy. Jaren Jackson Jr. has played over 60 games once in his NBA career, and he came in a year or two before Zion. So having him as your most important defensive player is a little scary to me. When you look at the Pelicans, the biggest thing, the reason I trust them the most is they've got three guys who can realistically give you 25 to 30 a night, like relatively easily. Right? If Brandon Ingram's not feeling it, you've got CJ and Zion and just kind of keep rotating those out. And on top of that, I think the Pelicans are even deeper than the Grizzlies. I mean, when you've got Trey Murphy, the third, not even starting for you because you've got Herbert Jones, that's incredible depth at the wing with a archetype that it's very, very hard to come across. If you don't want to play Jonas Valanciunas, you got to like space out and get more mobile. You've got Larry Nance, who's been an effective player for a long time. Najee Marshall's having a great year. My personal favorite player, Jose Alvarado, is going to become a postseason hero one of these days. And I have so much confidence in that statement. And then my favorite rookie from this past draft class, Dyson Daniels, he's being relied on to an extent. He's only playing 20 minutes a game, but his game is so versatile and he's so good at doing so many different things from passing to defense to rebounding, even scoring in the paint. You've got Devontae Graham, who has had I think he had averaged 19 a game about 2 years ago. He's only playing 15 minutes a game. This team is so incredibly deep that even if somebody gets hurt, I feel like there's so many people that'll step up and, continue to perform.
All right, so obviously I'm going with the Grizzlies, right? So I think they have everything that you could possibly want in a contending team. They have a top five. They are a top five team when it comes to offense and on defense. They have a top five point guard in John Morant, who is one of the best offensive players in the league and can get a bucket whenever he wants to. They have a defensive unit in Jaren Jackson Jr., who is playing like a defensive player of the year right now, and they have an ample amount of team chemistry. And the Grizzlies are now the second team in the Western Conference, and their starting lineup hasn't really played together yet. Jaren Jackson Jr., and Desmond Bane have yet to play a second of basketball together yet. And Desmond Bane, before his injury, was averaging 24, 5, and 5. When he comes back, that's going to make them even scarier. And I do believe that the Pelicans are a good team, don't get me wrong. But the main idea that I keep seeing about everyone talking about the Pelicans is that their success is heavily predicated on Zion Williamson health. So if you're heavily reliant on one player who is continuously in and out of the lineup, then I don't know how you're going to compare to all the other Western Conference teams when it comes to playoff time. And one of the only things that I've heard as a critique about the Memphis Grizzlies throughout the years was that they're too young. They don't really have a lot of experience. Well, they got experience last year. Now they have it. They played the Timberwolves. They played the NBA champions, the Golden State Warriors, in the Western Conference semifinals, and they were able to go to 6 games. And if John Morant did not get hurt in that one game, we're not sure where that series might have went. And this is the same team that beat the Milwaukee Bucks by 40 points, and they led by as much as 50 points in the game, held Giannis to 19 points, held Chris Middleton to 3 points. So the Grizzlies give me a reason to trust them because they have that experience. We haven't seen most of those players on the New Orleans Pelicans in the playoffs. We've never seen Zion go up against a playoff level defensive scheme. We saw what happened to Giannis before Giannis became who he was, really. And I've said this over and over and over again, and I'm going to continue to say it. The Grizzlies have built a culture, and every single year they get better and better and better. So that's why I trust them more.
I was dashing through the snow. And I told Rudolph, you not leading my sleigh tonight. I want Zion, and I want the Pelicans leading my sleigh tonight. That's what I said. And here's why. I know we've had talks about Zion. You've been heavily critical on his injury status. Would he be the same if he came back? Well, would he? I mean, if you look at these stats, December 17th versus the Suns, he's got 30. The game before that, 31. The game before that, 26. The game before that, 35. There is no answer for Zion Williamson right now. He is an athletic Charles Barkley, and the league is in shambles right now because there's no way to stop him. Well, if you look at this Pelicans team, what speaks out to me the most is the veteran leadership, which is something that I don't believe the Memphis Grizzlies have. I know you said they've had the experience in the playoffs, but I mean, you look at guys like Bi and CJ McCollum. CJ McCollum has made deep playoff runs. Valanciunas has been on teams that have made playoff runs, and they have been successful in those standpoints. And so when you look at a team that is this deep, as Josh was saying, this team has really 2 starting fives. This team could honestly go 10 deep in a playoff series, especially with guys like Jose Alvarado and Herb Jones locking down on the perimeter. And you have Zion Williamson, who's protecting the paint at all times. I mean, this team doesn't really have a lot of weaknesses going on for them. They have great coaching, and I think you saw how much heart this team had, especially in that first round versus the Suns, when they were pushing the first seed Suns to 6 to 7 games with CP3 and D-Book on the court right now. And so I really believe it's going to be really hard to beat this Pelicans team. And I love Ja. I think Ja is the closest thing to an all-star turned superstar out of the all-star group right now. Ja Morant is playing at an extremely high level, but he can't do it all by himself. And I know he plays team basketball. I know Bane and I know Jaren Jackson is there. But when I look at this Pelicans team, they're playing team ball. They have at least 3 players, like Josh said, that can at least give you 25 on any night basis. And I like the Pelicans a little bit more going forward into it.
Okay, so like I said before, I agree that the Pelicans are a good team, but some of the things you were saying about the Pelicans, you could say the exact same thing. For example, I mean, you talked about Dylan Brooks, Josh, and you also said, Cam, that nobody can really control Zion Williamson. Well, Dylan Brooks did. When the Memphis Grizzlies played against Zion Williamson, he did not score any points. Any points in the third quarter. None. Dylan Brooks was able to hold him to either 2 or 4 points. He didn't score. And when Dylan Brooks came out the game, that's when Zion went on his tear. That's when Zion scored all of those points. So I'm not going to say no one can challenge him. And like I said, we haven't seen him in the playoffs. We don't know what he's going to look like against a defensive scheme in a playoff setting. And also, you talked about Valanciunas and CJ McCollum. Let's not act like those two can't get exploited. You mean to tell me Valanciunas can't get exploited in the paint as well? You mean to tell me that CJ McCollum can't get exploited for his defense as well? Y'all love to talk about Ja defense. That's all I'm going to say about that. And you talked about great coaching. The Memphis Grizzlies have great coaching as well. And again, I'm not hating. And then you like to push this narrative that I just hate Zion Williamson and that I'm so hard on him about his health. It's something to consider. If you want to point out the health about Jaren Jackson Jr. and Desmond Bane, then you have to point out the fact that Zion Williamson has been in and out of the lineup. And I'm not saying he's a bad player by any means. I say he's a great player. But I'm just saying that matters too. If you're going to talk about the Grizzlies, do the same thing for the New Orleans Pelicans.
I'm going to have a couple answers to what you said. So we're talking about one game where Zion was held to 0 points in the third quarter. Fine.
How much one games have you brought up when trying to defend Zion? That's all I'm just saying.
7 and 4 on 60% shooting. 25, 7 and 4. Okay, he had a bad quarter. Second, if we're going to talk about exploitation.
You said nobody could control him, but that's all I was just saying, that if Dylan Brooks can do it, someone that Josh said you don't know what you're going to get out of him when it comes to the playoffs, how do we know the same thing ain't going to happen with somebody else?
Well, then it speaks to me and Josh's point. The roster is so deep. They have shooters on the team. They have veterans on the team. It doesn't have to be all Zion for them to win. It doesn't have to be. Zion doesn't have to go out there and drop 40 for the Pelicans to win a game. He doesn't. He honestly doesn't. If Zion was going through the playoffs and averaged 20 points a game, this team is in business because they have BI on the other side. They got McCollum on the other side. And if you want to talk about being compromised defensively, that's what you have Herb Jones and Jose Alvarado for. And that's what they're going to do. That's what they're going to do. If they see the matchup, we're going to switch it on them. We're going to do that. And then CJ is going to score. CJ is not terrible defensively. And I can say the same thing on the other side. Who's going to stop CJ on the other side? I've seen CJ McCollum get high before. It's tough to stop. And now you have Zion on the other side, and you have BI on the other side. I just feel like there's a lot of weapons going in the Pelicans' favor.
Okay, that's fair to say. That's like I said, I believe the Pelicans are a good team. But then again, the Memphis Grizzlies have constantly proven to us that when they're looking at as the underdog, when they're looking at as a team that has no depth, they come out and they do it every single time, and they get better and better, like I said.
That's fair. I think Zion has a bit of the underdog in him, too. Everyone said he was fat at the time, was making fun of his weight. I think that plays into some of his motivation this year as well. You go ahead, Josh.
The biggest reason I'm on the Pelicans bandwagon right now is the hardest thing to find in the NBA is a guy who can shut down a wing score, right? Like the NBA has been overtaken by 6'7" to 6'9" scores from the outside that can play all three levels, guys like Brandon Ingram and Zion. The Pelicans have at least two that you can consider as lockdown defenders on the wing in Herb Jones and Trey Murphy. And Najee Marshall has a shot to be something out there. So the Grizzlies have Dylan Brooks. Dylan's just he's small enough to where if you put him on a bigger guy, he could get bodied. He's a bulldog, so he's going to be a great defender regardless, and he's going to fight every possession. So I trust him. But outside of Dylan Brooks, who else on this team can really defend on the wing at that high of a level, right? Like Jaren Jackson's a great rim protector. But again, one, you've got to consider the health because Jaren Jackson's had a ton of problems with that, similar to Zion. And I don't know if he's necessarily a wing defender. He's more of a paint guy. So who else on the team would you trust guarding a top scorer out there? I don't know if there's anybody else on there, right? Like Dylan Brooks on Zion or great BI, sure. But who's guarding the other two guys? Something to think about.
That's the wrap for our episode today. Do you guys have anything to say? Might be last episode of the year. It might be.
I'm just gonna say, subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it with your friends, send us your takes so we can respond to you. And also, the Memphis Grizzlies in that Christmas game, I'm looking forward to seeing that. I'm looking forward to seeing my guys.
I want some W's to be put down in the comments for the chat because Josh Stradamus predicted the Philadelphia Eagles and their uprising. Who else was saying this at the beginning of the season? Nobody, except for me.
You also picked the Colts.
Hey, sometimes you got to be incredibly wrong to be incredibly right. All right, that is a war of attrition, and I will take it. All right.
So, Josh, is Matt Ryan still elite after blowing the 39-point lead this time as well?
Matt Ryan hasn't been elite for a very long time. All right. Matt Ryan has been a serviceable NFL quarterback for the last few years. But in all fairness, he's got an offensive coordinator that has like 3 games of NFL experience. His head coach has never actually coached, and his running backs hurt. So, and his defense gave up 36 points in a quarter. Is that really his fault? No.
That's true. It's
really not his fault.
You think you should win the game. But that's going to wrap up our episode today. Thank you guys for the support. East Atlanta sent out.
Hey, champ. Yeah, we play it all in night. Yeah, need it all in advance. The opposition know we're ready for it. Like a supper we eating, it won't be the last. Grind all the muscle, pull up. Parker right on the grass. We coming in, take over everything, run it up. Nothing holding me back. 3 in the wood, rushing. I don't like Dutch, don't even matter, you know I'm a face. And when I roll a paper, I like to go double. Run up a check, flip a W, make it an M. I need